Right. Hey, folks, welcome to Common Sense Live. This is the biggest break between two shows ever. If I'm correct, the last break, or the last show rather, was a year and a half ago.
I think it was longer. I think it was like nearly 2 years ago when we were on Facebook. We were rocking it back then, man.
We were having lots of fun. I look the same, I would like to think. Maybe a bit more stress lines here and there. But the show 2 years ago was all about bringing people who disagree together, lots of different interesting perspectives, and doing debate, right? And it was a really, really good show. We trended in England a couple of times, and people really loved the show. And oddly enough, I was hosting it at that time with another host, Avshat.
Hi.
So we're back like we never left. Well, folks, welcome. We're not gonna look back and romanticize the past. We're here for the present. We've got some very interesting topics to debate today, to discuss. We're going to be helped by friends. We've got all these wonderful guests coming on. Some are in the waiting room or the green room, whatever you call it, getting ready to go. Well, now, just for folks who are new, my name is Mike, or MT Omni. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Common Sense Network. And what we do at the Common Sense Network, as you may know if you're a frequent listener or reader, is we try and introduce news stories to people, but we try and keep it really fun, dynamic, and engaging. And Afshan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm the political editor at Common Sense Network, but I'm also a poet and playwright. And yeah, it's been a long time since we've done this, so I'm really excited to do it again and engage in conversation with people, man. It was really fun last time we did it. So
yeah, and this is obviously a new format. Like we were on Facebook Live, but now we're going to be on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. Listen, here's the thing you got to know just from the start. This show only works if you get involved. So if you're listening and you want to get your thoughts in, just type it in the comment section and we can bring it up on the stage, right? We can actually see what you're saying. So get as stuck in as you want.
And let us know where you're from. Let us know where it is you're speaking from, where you're listening from, where you're watching us from. It's always great to see where in the UK or even internationally people are watching us.
Superb. Yeah. And just let us know. And we will bring you up on here. We'll hear your thoughts and we'll discuss them too. So, as I've said, we've got really interesting debates or discussions to get through today. We're going to be starting with a very interesting story. I have strong feelings about this. I'm sure people watching may have strong feelings too. Yeah, I kind of have strong feelings about all sorts of random things. But let me set the scene first, and then we'll bring in some of our guests, and I'll hear some of your thoughts too. The first story is, of course, about Marcus Rashford, who, if you're on Twitter, and it seems like the whole world was on Twitter this week, everyone's talking about Marcus Rashford, mainly because he wrote this thread where he exposed, for want of a better term, that there were issues with the free school meals, the packages that a catering company called Chartwell's was given. He was saying those free school meals were, quite frankly, not up to standard. Now, you'll remember, of course, that Marcus Rashford actually won that tussle you saw between him and the government last year in June, where the government was forced to do a U-turn, where originally they had planned not to provide free school meals for children through the holiday. He won that, but now he's speaking about the standards of the free school meals actually being given. You would have seen also pictures appear on social media with people kind of saying what you can get for £30, which is what you're meant to be using. I've seen some shocking images. Torrin, our producer, I don't know if he has any pictures, but I've seen some shocking images. So let's just start with this, Afshan. What do you think about this story, the images you've seen online? What are your initial thoughts?
The worst part for me was to see that they'd cut like a pepper in half, an onion in half. There were like little stubs of carrots. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with a tiny little stub of a carrot? I mean, that is not supposed to like.
Can I say though, that picture is poorly lit. Just for the photographers out there.
Okay, but this isn't about the lighting, okay? This is about the contents of what is in the picture. You've got like what, 3 little like yogurt fruits. I mean, that may be like kids' lunch for 2 days, maybe. What am I supposed to do with like 1 tomato and 2 carrots? Make like a tomato and carrot soup, maybe? Is that what I'm supposed to be making out of it? No, I can't. It's just ridiculous. I could make more in 5 quid, let alone 30 quid.
Yeah.
And the fact that these are supposed to last people, I think this one is 3 days, but there were 5 days and 10 days
Yeah.
where food they were given out rather than giving out £30 vouchers to people. But my favorite part of this whole story is Boris Johnson himself sort of talking about Marcus Rashford and about how amazing it was that they had a conversation and Marcus called him out on the government's oversight, let's say, with all of this. So I think it's really funny that this is that, you know, he had to say that. I think this is Chartwell's, isn't it, the company that has won the tender. The other thing I don't understand is why is it that a company has to win a tender? Why can't we just give £30 vouchers to the families to kind of go, you know what, you can shop, you know how to shop, you know how to feed your kids, you're doing it when they're not at school. Here's 30 quid to help you out when they are supposed to be in school, to help feed them.
Yeah, I guess the difficulties that some will say is, oh, well, you know, if you give vouchers, there's no way of knowing that it's going to be spent on food. Families who are suffering, let's be quite frank, sometimes may make the decision not to actually feed the children and do something else with the money. But again, that's not what we're here to discuss. It was, as you said, because Boris Johnson actually mentioned him, PMQs. As you know, Marcus Rashford actually got an MBE last year or early this year. I forget when he
2021, yeah.
Services to, I don't know, ending child poverty. I've got interesting thoughts on that. And we've got some guests too who I want to bring on because I know they're going to have thoughts too on this. I guess the debate, and I want to get the comments going because the debate so far is, okay, cool. Maybe there is something to say about, you know, vouchers versus getting the money or having a company actually buy the food and giving it to you. And what should happen there. But there's also another discussion, which is essentially about this kind of celebrity activism thing. You've seen the whole shut up and dribble brigade, those who are online saying, listen, we like you, but you're a footballer, play football, and like, let's keep it moving. So let's bring in first an avid football fan called Toye Akinoso. He's the editorial lead at a charity called Our God-Given Mission. And let's just see what he thinks, because I know he's a diehard football fan. So I don't know if you're in here, Toye. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm really, really excited to be here. And yeah, I definitely love the question. I've been thinking about it a fair bit as well. And I think, obviously, I'm a Chelsea fan. I'm a big Chelsea fan. So there's actually nothing I would love more than Marcus Rashford to quit football and run a political campaign, because United are top of the league. And it's literally my nightmare is coming true. So I'm really hoping he just abandons football and United fumble the league. But I think in all seriousness, like the conversation, as you mentioned, really reminds me of who said Chelsea, you. I'll fight you. I'm ready. We can talk football all day. But the conversation really reminds me, as you said, of Tommy Laren's comment however many months ago, where she told LeBron James to shut up and dribble. And I think it's quite remarkable how, for some reason, celebrities aren't allowed to have political opinions or fight for social change. Like, God forbid Kim Kardashian fight for police reform. Like, she should just stick to reality TV. Like, why does your profession somehow disqualify you from having political duties? And it's not even about politics. It's about having a conscience. Like, why can't you, because I work in sport, I'm a rapper, I'm a singer, why am I not allowed to voice my opinions? Like, who determines who gets to have a say in social change and who doesn't? Like, God forbid someone 50 years ago said to Rosa Parks, like, why don't you just stick to work in a department store and you just be a seamstress?
Okay, so you're asking a lot of questions. I was actually hoping you would answer one of them. You know, so who do you think should be decided? You know, because I guess, again, this is not my opinion, but I think it is interesting to consider, is that what some people are saying is happening with Marcus Rashford is you've got a whole host of charities, people who've given up their lives to fight in child poverty, right? And they've been working at that. And here's a guy who comes along, who writes tweets, you know, he organizes, and he basically scoops up all the attention. And now he's getting MBEs, he's getting praised, he's getting all this kind of attention. And it's like, well, what about all the people doing the groundwork? What about them? What would you say to them?
But he's also fueling like the battle. He's in a place where he has more influence than most of us are ever going to have in our lifetime. I'm reminded of I think it was Isaiah Thomas, the NBA player, who on his Twitter bio says, if all I'm remembered for is being a good basketball player, then I've grossly failed. Like, Marcus Rashford is in a blessed position where he has power and influence, and he can make real, lasting change, which most people are never going to get. And he is using the opportunity he has to give voice to those people who previously would have been unheard. So I don't think by any means, I mean, I don't know him personally. I don't think he's particularly doing this for his own glory, but I think he's well within his right to say there's a problem in the world and I want to fight for it and fix it. I don't think by any means we say, no, you don't get to have that say because all you know is football. I don't think that's fair at all on Marcus Rashford. But George, who works in an investment bank for 5 years, he gets to have a political campaign. But Rashford in Manchester, who plays football, doesn't even get to say his opinion on politics. I don't think that's fair on him at all.
Got you. Afshad, you're nodding along furiously.
Yeah, I just feel like he's doing more for politics than politicians have over the past. The fact that like he single-handedly forced the government to give kids free meals, right? First of all, and then second, shamed the meals that they were giving out. Most recently, to the point that Boris Johnson himself even admitted that actually it was Marcus that brought it forward. Marcus, my mate, Marcus brought it forward, and that's why. Talking about him, yeah, but that's what I mean. That like it's that he's done so much more than even the opposition did. What has Labour done during this time? Actually, you know, in terms of like bringing Boris out. Sorry, but like they haven't done a lot more. You know, if a footballer, a 23-year-old, I think he is. Footballer is forcing the government to make changes that really the opposition should be doing. There's something clearly wrong with the political spectrum right now.
Before we bring on, because I've got a next guest who's actually a footballer. So he dribbles and he's a professional footballer. This is what he does. But before we do that, just a comment just came in from Torrin Joshua who says social change will only happen when those with influence take a stand. Right?
Yeah.
This has got very motivational. Just to remind people who are maybe just joining us, you can actually drop a comment and we can bring your comment up. So let us know what you think. Do you agree with the guests? I'm going to bring in our next guest, Toby Shell Silva, to add his thoughts, his 2 pence to what's going on.
How you doing, guys?
Hey, Toby.
I've enjoyed the convo and I completely agree with Toye. Apart from me, his views on Chelsea. I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm happy. But yeah, I completely agree. I think Marcus is using his influence for good, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
What about the fact that it's stopping him from playing football the way he should be playing football because his energy is taken up?
But who says he's not playing? How do you say because he's?
How do you organize all these different charities?
Yeah,
you know, and still focus on the sport.
But football, you have your working hours and then you have your non-working hours. Do you know what I mean? So you're trying to say his whole life should now be dedicated specifically to football.
And how? Sorry, but other footballers have brands. They bring out perfumes. They, bring out like menswear. They're allowed to do all that stuff, which actually takes a lot more time and energy because you have to design and sit through like months, if not years, of planning, marketing, and then the release of a product. So they can do that, and they're all white. But Marcus Rashford is not allowed to spend his spare time, just sort of ringing up my mate Boris and being like, "Do you want to check out the food you're giving out because it's not great?"
Well, I don't want to bring race into it because I don't think. I mean, do you think it's a racial issue? This?
I think the way people are targeting him is, yeah.
What you think this is?
I think there are undertones. It's not explicitly a race issue, but I think if Phil Foden, for example, he would be so applauded and paraded on every street in Manchester. But because it's a black kid from Manchester, there is a bit of tension around it. I'm not saying it's explicit racism, but I do think that there's a fair bit to consider why it played out the way it is.
We have a question that I want to pose straight to Toby.
Yeah.
Is Marcus Rashford, and this is kind of, and Torrin, there's a picture I asked for. I don't know if you've got it ready. Not yet, but this is my gripe, and I want to ask you this directly. Is Marcus Rashford the right person to be leading this nationwide project to tackle the issue of child poverty in the UK? When
you say the right person, what are you specifically looking for? Because in my head, it would be somebody who... You go ahead. It would be somebody who's actually able to make this change, has the passion to do it, and is actually going to do it. And I think he's actually shown that he's capable of doing it and is actually going to do it. So I heard a quote that anything is possible if no one cares who gets the credit. I think that we're saying because he's a footballer, he shouldn't be, or because he's got influence, he shouldn't be, or because he's black, he shouldn't be. When we should be saying he's doing a great work. Can we applaud that for a second? If it was somebody else, let's applaud the work rather than who's doing the work. And I think many times we like to nitpick.
I love that you said that, because that teased me up. So Torin, cue my favorite image.
Go on.
Is it ready? Folks, our first show back. So cut us some slack here. Is it ready? All right. Okay. So here he is, on the front cover of Vogue. Yeah. Now, this isn't a problem per se, but here's my issue. Isn't it weird when you've got folks who are supposedly kind of passionate, genuinely concerned about an issue, right? And then they're on the front cover of fashion magazines. It was like during the Black Lives Matter campaign when people were marching, doing Black Lives Matter, we'll die for this. And the next minute they were like, and I'm going, oh, can you imagine Rosa Parks, after actually losing money, losing her source of income, right, then going to a fashion shoot with Vogue, where I don't know if they were paid for that. It doesn't make sense.
But if she was offered it, do you think she'd turn it down?
I think she would, because I think back then, I'm not saying this is about Marcus Rashford now, but I do think there is an emerging class of professional activists who kind of see it as a career kind of thing, to kind of be an activist and
I hear you.
Praise MBEs, OBEs, all these kind of things.
I agree with that, but I do think that there's a difference between doing that and then being on Vogue or being on the cover of a magazine. I think that just because you're promoted well or marketed well doesn't make you a bad activist. I think what it does do is just make you a bit more commercial, which some would argue you can't be as radical because you have to give up some liberties in order to be, on the cover of Vogue or on the cover of various different magazines. So I'll take that point, but I don't think it makes them any less of an activist. Sorry, Toby, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no problem. I was going to say he's a footballer at the end of the day. I don't think he can be as radical as he wants to be because he's a footballer and he's got commitments to Manchester United.
He could quit football.
He could quit, yeah, but that's his profession and that's his first thing that brings him income. He's got success from it. He's made his name from it. He's now adding other things to that. Maybe it might be modeling. Maybe it might be something else because he himself is more than his job. And I think many people view him in the lens of, oh, you're Marcus Rashford, you play football, stay in your lane. And that's not how the world works. You can have different hats on. He can put different hats on and he's making change by putting these different hats on. Because he's a footballer, he has the opportunity to pick up a hat, say, these kids need school meals, and they actually get them because he's got the football hat. If he didn't have the football hat, maybe it would be a different story. Maybe if he didn't represent England, maybe it would be a different story. But he has seized the opportunity to make a difference with the hats that he wears. Do you know what I mean? And I think people are just knocking him down for no reason.
I also think, where is the line, right? So if an activist is called to BBC Radio to talk about their activism, is that okay? And then if they're called to BBC on Good Morning, hold on. If they're called on Good Morning Breakfast, is that okay?
Yes.
Is that allowed? Okay. And then if the next step from that is they're being in the Guardian on the front page because of the work that they're doing and they're talking about their activism, is that okay?
Is that a fashion shoot?
It might be a fashionable photo. I'm not allowed to look good.
That would be my line. Here's the thing. I get your point, but again, I don't think it pushes where we're trying to go. Because if you ask me, the point isn't really about Marcus Rashford here, just to elevate the conversation a bit. It's about this kind of professional class of activists who it seems, I just find it weird how you can say the system's broken. Remember when we had people saying Vogue was racist and fashion magazines are racist, and then everyone started doing the Vogue challenge, where they were taking pictures on the Vogue front covers. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Let's bring in Success, who's a student. I know Matt may have a different perspective. Success, what do you think? Would you go on Vogue and do a fashion shoot for all your activism?
Hi, evening. I don't even think the question is would I go on Vogue, but it's one of those things where I don't want to say part and parcel, but I think you have to understand that obviously it's been well documented that, Rashford, he's not just any ordinary footballer. It's been well documented that, he has come up off free school meals. So we have to remember, this is a cause that's somewhat close to his heart. This isn't just he knows what it's like to starve, you know, not go to bed, go to bed and, you know, not be fed well. You know, I think it was said that, you know, he went into digs at United early because, you know, his mum just couldn't feed him. And so I think it's, and if I may, Mike, I'm actually going to go back to something you said about him balancing his work and doing this campaign. I think this is a thing that I did not read the full article, but something that I think the Daily Telegraph touched on either last night or this morning. And I just disagree. This is just so, I was getting so animated in my green screen waiting room, because this is something where he hasn't necessarily got unlimited time, but he does have quite a lot of resources, quite a lot of people to help him with the things that he's campaigning for. And he's not, his performances as a United fan from the pitch, they definitely are not suffering. So it's, while he has while he's got that PR behind him, while he's got that machine, I know some people say, oh, you know, it's Rock Nation that's pushing his brand, Rock Nation, his PR brand that's pushing his agenda. No, this is still very much a personal campaign. Now, he may not necessarily be the person who would have put his hand up first, but since the open has been made for him, I think he stepped in, and I don't think anyone can disagree that he's done a fantastic job. So yeah, that's kind of
that's fair. Before we move on to topic 2, Toby, I just want to throw a question around, which is what do you guys think? Because this isn't about Marcus Rashford, of course. What do you think can be done to kind of combat this long-term issue of children having to rely on free school meals? What can be done? What do you think we can do long-term to actually, solve some of these issues?
That's a great question. I guess the government providing, constantly providing, seeing where the needs are, seeing the roots of the issue, and saying how can we actually get more school meals out there to the people that actually need them. I think other people also standing up and making it more vocal of how change can be made to support those that actually need free school meals. I think more footballers should rise up and use their influence, use their platforms to really combat and speak up on different issues. But specifically to the school meals, I think Marcus Rashford should keep charging forward, plowing forward on that. So, yeah.
You won't say it yourself, but I know you ran or you founded a charity, an organization called the Toby Show Silver Foundation, and you do things on your own accord, you know, even as a professional footballer. Can you tell us a bit about that and how that's come about and what happens there?
Yeah, I think my slogan is "You're blessed to be a blessing." So when I see Marcus Rashford do the things that he's doing, he's seeing how much of a how blessed he is personally to be able to give to other people's needs. I think sometimes we can increase in our jobs, increase in different areas of our lives, but we want more, as opposed to saying, how can we share more and how can we give more? So when there's more people living outside of themselves, being a lot more selfless, saying, how can I actually cater to the community? I think that's when difference is made. And we actually want to rise together rather than a few of us rise and a few of us kind of suffer on the wayside. So
more power to you. I wish you all the best with that.
Yeah, no,
and Success and Toye, what are your thoughts? What are your your last remarks, so to speak?
I was going to say something quite quickly. So, like, Toby, you're doing some amazing charity work. I think Mike might get a bit upset if it catches you on GQ next week under
if they ask me to go on, I'll be going on.
Everything I've said straight away. If I see you on GQ saying 10 tips for staying on, I'll go, yeah, that's enough of that.
Well, yeah, I think I kind of final remarks for me on the last question about what can we do to kind of see that last long change. I think, yeah, I can definitely kind of echo what Toby's saying. I think the fight against child poverty isn't just for footballers and rap stars and athletes, but I think we all have a part to play. I think kind of in the same way where we saw a real change because the media put pressure on those in politics. I think equally we kind of need to rise up, let our voices be heard, be it on social media, be it campaigning on the streets or protesting or signing petitions online. We all need to kind of pull our own weight and do our own bit if we want to see the change we want to. What's the saying? Be the change you want to see, right? Yeah, if we want to see that long-lasting change, it starts from us pulling our weight.
Success. Before we go, someone just came in and said, "Why is doing fashion an issue against fighting racism? Platinum plated." I'm guessing you share the same sentiments as this person.
Yeah, very much so.
And what about you, Success?
Yeah, firstly, I don't think it's necessarily an issue so long as the activism part gets done. I think, and in addition, if I was going to close, I'd say that, you know, this issue of kind of child poverty and things, it's not something that's necessarily going to go away. It's something that the COVID pandemic has somewhat amplified. And I think I was reading somewhere that the petition in October that Rashford put out to extend free school meals, I think it was only the 6th to hit 1 million signatures. So this is something that people feel very, very strongly about. And it's kind of a call to all of us, so where we can, just to kind of show more empathy. Granted, you will have people that say, you know, it's not the government's kind of job to feed everyone. But I think that it is never, ever a child's fault that they are hungry or they lack food. So I still think that it is a call on all of us just to kind of show some common decency and help out where we can, whether that's through being charitable, whether that's through campaigning, just whichever way we can. So, yeah.
Just to quickly clarify as well on this, it's not that the government is just giving out handouts. It's that these kids would ordinarily be in school where they'd be fed. And for some people, for some kids, that is their only meal, is that lunchtime meal that they get, or breakfast clubs. It's really important when they're not in school and they're supposed to be in school for that to be covered. So it's not necessarily just a ration that's being given out to working class or to lower people with lower socioeconomic backgrounds. It's actually to actually feed the kids, is what they've been doing. We've been doing as a country, as a nation, for decades. So to suddenly take that away because of a pandemic, because kids aren't in school, is a travesty. So that's essentially what the vouchers are about.
Well, thank you all for joining us. We're going to say bye to these 3 wonderful guests for now. I mean, I find this such an interesting discussion for a number of different reasons. I mean, it's the way social media is going, like, it's so hard to do something positive and not get rewarded for it. Like, people are gonna follow you. If you fight for poverty, people will follow you. If you fight against poverty, people will follow you. So for that reason, it seems like it's so hard to avoid that now. But folks, before we move on to our next topic, just want to remind you to hit the like button, press subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Do share this with a friend. We've got 2 more topics to discuss. Lots of cool things still coming up. So it's not too late for people to join. Just get involved. And the hashtag is CommonSenseLive. Over to you, Afshan.
So speaking about social media, actually, and this one's quite close to my heart. I did like that segue. It was very good. There's a couple of things. Like, I would never call myself an influencer, but I've definitely been treated like one by Twitter, because my account was suspended for 3 months, and it was the most traumatic. It wasn't traumatic like that, but it was really
I just imagine you lying in bed like
well, I didn't know what to do, so I can only imagine what Donald Trump, bless his soul, is feeling right now, without, while he's been taken off of social media. So this story is about Donald Trump being blamed, I guess, for the events that took place in the Capitol last week, where protesters came in, damaged a lot of property. 5 people died during that. So it's quite a difficult moment, I think, while we're also in a pandemic. Donald Trump's tweets were flagged as being quite inappropriate, as inciting violence, as inciting people to go and join the protests and join the rioters. And so he's been banned. He's been suspended from Twitter and a lot of other social medias. Now, of course, a lot of people would agree. Mike, you agree with Trump being suspended, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We wrote an article on this, actually, called "Is Trump a Social Media Monster?" that you can catch on the TCS Network website. But I guess for me, I agree with the suspension, because I don't like Trump, but I disagree with the way that it's been done. I do not think that Trump should have been banned for the reasons that he's been banned. And personally, it's been really difficult, because I don't like Trump and I want him off Twitter, and I don't think he's great on Twitter. But he exists on there, and actually, the same reasons that Trump was banned, I was banned, because I started talking about police brutality. So, and then
why Donald Trump was banned.
No. But Donald Trump was banned for inciting violence, right? And I called police pigs repeatedly. So that would have been seen as quite a violent act in that way. Go on, Mike.
Were you told by Twitter that the reason you were banned was because you called the police pigs?
No, but after I repeatedly tweeted pigs are haram, my Twitter was suspended, and then the tweet has disappeared from my timeline. So
well, I still think Twitter do tell you why you were banned. I think it's a bit. I would say it's wrong to assume that they banned you because you said that. It could have been because someone reported your tweets from earlier. It could have been because they were doing a random sweep and they found suspicious. I mean, there's lots of reasons. And when Trump was banned, they gave a reason as to why Trump was banned. This idea that Twitter banned you because you tweeted this, that's a narrative that you.
But the thing I disagree with is the reasoning that they've given, right? So the reasoning is that he tweeted that he won't be going to the inauguration, which then backs him up as that's in the factors, in the assessment that Twitter's put out, in the blog that they've put out. They've claimed this is the number of factors that they said, and the statement reads the factors including. The factors in play as to why he's been suspended is Donald Trump's statement that he would not be attending the inauguration is being received by a number of supporters as further confirmation that the election was not legitimate and is seen as him disavowing his previous claims that made via the two tweets above. And the two tweets were specifically to all those that have asked, I will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th, and the 75 million great American patriots who voted for me, America first and make America great again, will have a great voice long in the future. They will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape or form. Those are the two tweets that led to suspension. That's what I disagree with.
No.
According to Twitter, according to his own blog,
what they said was for months, Donald Trump has been making tweets about the election being fraudulent and not true when in fact it was. So there's months of patterned lying, and all of that fed into the climate where a riot or an insurrection was more possible. The notion that Twitter just said, Trump said, that's not what happened. We've all watched them put little disclaimers on these tweets for months now.
I agree, but that comes in a lot of people's tweets. It's not just Donald Trump. But the reasoning, yeah, if you tweet incorrectly, if you tweet that the election was a fraud right now, if I tweet that, it will be flagged up as this tweet is disputed, right? And it's only really when it gets traction that really happens, because that's when it gets to Twitter's eye, or it gets into their view. But the important thing is, because I agree with that, I agree that because of those reasons he should have been suspended long before. But the reasoning that Twitter's given, and that's what I want to focus on, is because that's the reasoning that they've given, is what they've stated on their blog in their official statement, is that it's these two tweets that have led to it. And just based on those two tweets alone, for me, that does not incite violence. That does not incite terror. That does not incite people to go protest and riot in that way. But I know that other people, for example, have been suspended for telling people to go and protest against police brutality. Jason, who in the article that I've quoted, sort of talks about how his own political activism was seen as inciting violence, and he was banned or was told that he should refrain from tweeting such things and refrain from supporting those acts because it was inciting violence. So for me, that the issue is the lack of consistency across the board. It needs to be consistent. If we're going to ban people for one thing, we ban the people that are calling women of color, particularly politicians, black politicians online, racist and harassing them online. There's a question, does it matter if he was deleted for the wrong reason? Yes, it does. Because that's the whole, if we're just going to start deleting people willy-nilly because we feel like it one day, where is the law? Does it matter if somebody goes to prison?
It's not the law, it's a social media app.
Hold on a second. Does it matter if someone goes to prison for the wrong reason?
No, but I
yes,
think I honestly think you're conflating a lot of different things. And this is my problem with this debate. And I wrote about this on the Common Sense Network. So comments at ccsnetwork.co.uk. People are using this case to prove things that it's not meant to be used for. People are using this case, and we're going to bring on Aaron in a minute to hear his thoughts. They're bringing on this case as a freedom of speech case. Donald Trump has access to the world's media with a click. He can put out a memo and the whole world has to cover what he's saying. He is not being silenced. He just hasn't. He's lost one personal Twitter account, which he broke protocol to use. Where like this is not freedom of speech. So people like they're making points that I agree with. I agree with you about rules and equal application, but Donald Trump is not the proxy for that. He's just not.
I think maybe it's not Donald Trump, but it's Twitter suspension, right? There is the proxy. And I guess maybe it's time to bring in our guest at this point. Aaron, if you're around, come on to the screen and wave your hands in the air. Toya is just saying that if the sentence is the same, does it matter? And actually the reason that the state in any case will kind of push for multiple sentences is for that reason. So even though, you only live to like 120 max, right, in this country, in the world right now, they will still pursue multiple murder charges and give them all life sentences, which would mean that in total you'd be doing 300 years. But really, that doesn't really matter because the sentence is the same. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be pursued. The fact is that the law on that, and this is the first thing, I'm going to say it, the law in that respect means something. But Aaron, what is it? What are your views on Trump's social media ban from Twitter?
Well, for me, it's less to do with what he said and more to do with making a statement. They banned the president of the United States from his the biggest platform that he has, which is Twitter. For me, it's less of what he said and who he is as a person. This is basically, in my opinion, this is Twitter making a statement. This is them basically saying, if we don't like what you say for any reason, then we can ban you, just like that. This is less to do with what's being said as to, this is a power thing. In the same way that, for example, getting off topic slightly, we look at, for example, oil companies and how they need to be regulated, because you cannot have a necessity, which is a part of people's lives now, in the hands of a couple of people. It just can't work. It cannot happen. As much as I believe that Twitter is its own company, is able to make their own law, because you have these big tech companies that practically have a monopoly on how we communicate internet-based media, and how they almost control internet infrastructure as a whole. If they can ban the president of the United States just like that, they could do it to anybody. This is not a Trump thing. This is a power thing.
Let me jump in on that. That's not a problem. People keep
yes,
saying
it is. Yes, it is.
Let me tell you why it's not a problem. People keep saying if they can do it to Trump, they can do it to you. They've always been able to do it to you. People have always had accounts suspended when it violates the terms. Here's the problem with this analogy and why I think we need to stop using Trump. It's actually a bit annoying. And here's why. Trump was warned that you are violating the rules of your account. He said, doesn't matter, I'm going to carry on. They then paused it for 12 hours. He then violated it again. And then they said, sorry, you've now lost the privilege to that personal account. How is that Twitter just deciding to shut
I will tell you why. I'll tell you why. It's very simple, right? Twitter has terms and conditions. Fair enough, everyone has to sign it. However, because of the sheer amount of power this company has, the terms and conditions simply become at the discretion of whoever's owning these companies. It is as simple as that, really, if that makes sense. You understand what I'm saying?
You can use that same thing with WhatsApp, right? Where WhatsApp's, terms and conditions have changed, and there's actually been people are leaving WhatsApp and moving to other apps like Signal. A lot of my group chats right now, my mum is thinking about moving to Signal. Like that's how deep it goes right now. So there are times when you kind of go, I don't agree with the rules. I don't agree with the terms and conditions. I've read them, first of all, because I'm, someone that reads these things, and then I'm going to leave. And that's a decision that you can make as a person. I guess I think what you're touching on is interesting and important, but I think the way you're going around it potentially is slightly flawed. So the fourth revolution, the way that the digital companies don't have a law that they have to abide by because they are international. Because say, for example, it's someone in the UK that harasses somebody in the US, which law would get involved, right? Which law enforcement is it? Is it the UK or is it the US that gets involved? If it's on Twitter, for example, right now, it's a Twitter violation. And then Twitter would have to get involved. But really, realistically, because of the way that the policies work and because of the way the borders work right now in the world, it's really difficult to keep social media platforms and stuff and have them come under a particular law. So that's what's really important, and that is what should be petitioned for, a potential like cross-Atlantic legal system, but then also I'm quite anti-legal system. So for me, that's quite problematic in that we're policing the way that an online, what is in theory free media and a free way of living is. Because how do you get whistleblowers? How do you get people that then access the internet to protest against regimes if you've got a law that then stops them from being able to do that? If you've got a legal system that then
It depends. It depends on what the law is, though.
Can I pose a question? Because Aaron,
okay.
So it seems as though, and I take your point, Ashton. I think I share the same fears you share. Aaron, it seems like you're saying your issue or problem is that these companies are too big, quote unquote, or not about their terms of condition or terms of use. Your problem is who enforces those terms of condition, terms of use. Sorry. So here's my question to you, right? If it's not them, because people say stuff like big tech is big. Being big isn't the problem here, because even if they were small, they still would have terms of condition, terms of use. My question to you is, in your ideal world where things are balanced and things are fair, right? When a company has terms of condition or terms of use, who decides if they've broken it? Is it the law? Is it a government? I mean, is it some board that's made? Like, what ideas do you have, rather than saying that it's just too big and tech companies are too powerful? What would happen in an ideal world? Who would make that decision if it's not the ethics board of a tech community?
Well, this is the issue that I have. There's no legal framework that I can use. This is the problem that we have.
No,
we have a free.
Not legal, because we're not talking legal. We're talking about companies here. So we're talking about moral, because it's a private entity when it comes down to it. So I'm not really interested in the legal argument. In terms of the moral one, what would satisfy you in terms of how the decision ought to be made?
I would say not banning people for their political opinions. Twitter has basically said that Trump has been inciting violence, and whilst I acknowledge that a couple of his statements have been a bit suspect, and there's some things that I'm not true. It's been a bit suspect. I have to admit. No, I'm just saying it's more to do with the principle. I can't see exactly where Donald Trump has incited violence. He hasn't said to those people, go and attack this, or go and do this, or go and do that. The people who laid siege to the Capitol did that by themselves.
That's not inciting violence. You should know the inciting violence, right, is stuff like, and I'm going to use a reference of like an old mafia film. When a boss comes into someone's house, and looks at the daughter and strokes the daughter's hair and go, "It's a nice daughter you have. It would be a shame if you lost them." That's a threat. You can go, "Well, he didn't say I'll kill her," but that's not how it works. He, in that scenario, right, he's insinuating the threat. And equally, when Trump's lawyer stands on the stage and goes, "We need trial by combat," for me, that's pretty explicit. When Donald Trump goes, "Let's go to the Capitol and show them our power because this election's rigged and they're stealing democracy from us and it's fraudulent," you don't think that raises the political temperature to a position that someone might get hurt? You're really telling me it's a bit suspect? Really? Suspect?
Yeah, I think it's suspect. Because for me, I don't know, maybe it's down to interpretation. For me, it's a direct thing. Unless he actually says, go and kill this person or go and hurt this person, he's okay, in my opinion. That's what I think.
That's not what the law is, though. The legal law.
But I just said that. But hold on a second. 5 minutes ago, I was told that Twitter and Facebook don't abide by this kind of legal law. So how can you use the law to enforce?
No, I didn't say they didn't abide by it. It's difficult to bring them to account. So if for example, it's two people in the UK that have an issue on Facebook and it's harassment or it's sexual or whatever it is, right? That is then a UK police law legal problem. So the legal system can get involved. The reason the legal system doesn't get involved and Facebook doesn't have a legal framework in that sense is because of the international globalization of it all, right? Is that you have the issue where you've got someone in the UK, someone in the US, or someone that presents like they're in the UK, but actually they're from the US or from Australia or wherever. And that's the issue, is that you cannot pinpoint where a particular person is from, so you don't know where they're based. There's also like the anonymity of everything. So the way that Twitter works is that you can have an anonymous account. You can use a username. You can be a fan account, for example. How do you hold one person to account? If it's one Twitter account and you've got 6 people that own it or 6 people that post off it, who are you going to bring in? Who are you going to bring into charges? Those are the issues. Those are the real life practical issues that mean that it's difficult to actually have a legal system that looks over all of Facebook and Twitter. That isn't to say there isn't one in place. That isn't to say that there isn't any legal system that is in place
Difficult, it's
at all.
not impossible. Difficult, not
It's not
impossible. I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't know. But isn't there this
You
thing
don't
called
have to be a lawyer,
Interpol?
So
Isn't there this thing called Interpol that could do some kind of regulation?
But Interpol, okay. So Interpol is really used for big level, high level crimes. You're not really going to call Interpol and be like, okay, so there's a guy, you know, with the hashtag at, or, you know, with the Twitter at Tiger49, and he's bullying this kid over here in Manchester. Can you please get on them and try and work out what's going on? That's not what's going to happen, right?
I mean,
it's not high level.
I get that.
It's not high level enough for them to get involved.
I mean,
what can exist?
Go ahead.
What can exist is a UN type organization, an organization that looks over the digital.
Why are we bringing the UN into this conversation?
No, she's right. No, she's right though. To some extent, you have to hold your company accountable, Mike. This can't continue.
No, you are right about accountability. I totally agree with you. Like I agree with you there. Remember, listen, my research area is tech. My research area is algorithms. My research area is cyber balkanization. I have a really deep interest in tech companies, how they operate, the law surrounding them. I'm that guy that says tech companies are too big. But here's the thing. Even though I'm that guy and I'm fearful of the kind of, you know, how arbitrary and whimsical they can be, even I recognize that this is just a bully getting suspended for being a bully on Twitter. That's
define bully. Define bully, Mike.
Well, bully.
I'll tell
you, bully. A bully is someone who uses the weight of the presidency to attack private citizens. That's something Trump has done from the minute he got into office. Right? He's lifted up people whose books he likes, and because of the presidency, the weight of the office supports them. He's profited privately. In fact, here's something I was suspicious of when he first became president. He used a POTUS account for a few months, right? And that's the precedent, because you're not meant to gain anything personally from being president, right? Now, here's what he did a few months after. He stopped using the POTUS, the official Twitter account, and started using Donald Trump. Now, guess what he was planning to do after he left office? Rumors are he was planning to start a new news channel. Oh, wait, he started a new news channel, and straight away, he gets to market to 88 million people. Not just that, we've got foreign dignitaries coming over to the US, staying in these hotels. This is the first person that's went into presidency and has got more money out of it. He's going to leave rich. So being a bully.
You understand he's a businessman, right? Power. He's not a politician. He's not a politician, Mike. He's a businessman. It's in his nature to do this.
He's a president. He's a politician.
No, but I'm saying, like, he's a businessman by trade.
Yeah, but this is my point. He is a businessman. But the fact is that he's been running a country as a politician for the past 4 years. He is a politician, regardless of what.
This reminds me of when Nigel Farage goes, I'm not a politician. You've literally been campaigning in politics for 20 years. You can't keep using that. It might be cute.
That's not what they're saying, though. That's not what they're saying. What they're talking about is they want, you know, like how politicians, they make promises they can't keep. And they have, like, it's almost the politicians have this kind of elitist thing where they want to be able to make decisions on behalf of people and they don't want to be held accountable. They want people who are basically on their level.
That's what Trump does. He signed a record amount of executive orders. He's literally circumvented Congress to just do whatever he wants to do. I just think my ultimate problem with some of these debates are we're making strong arguments, but Trump is really not the proxy for that. He's a bad argument. When people use him, like the Parler suspension, for instance, that's a good conversation to have about the coordinated efforts of companies.
To stifle competition.
I get that. But to use Trump and say Trump is a bad apple, and I think he had this come in, and I'm actually quite happy that he has to lose those 80, because you can tell it made him so. He was at the Mexican border giving a speech a few days after. He was deflated, and I don't wish bad things on anybody, but seeing him just be like, I said, this is welcome. We need.
Like, I think it's more symbolic, though. In my opinion, I think it's more symbolic because some people would argue, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Some people would argue that to ban Donald Trump or to remove him from the internet, the public life, is to almost cut off the people that voted for him. So there's a big divide there, the big ideological political divide there. is basically Twitter saying we have the power to silence anyone who doesn't agree with us. That's what some people interpret it as. That's what some people would
He
say.
still has access to the president's Twitter account. That he still has access to @POTUS. That still exists, right?
I believe so. If that's the case, then we don't really have an argument. But even so, the fact they're able to do that, I'm just saying,
You're like,
it's a lot of power, Mike.
I've got no argument.
It's a lot of power, Mike. I'm just saying, man. Okay, cool. But
by the way, I do agree with you that the tech companies need regulation. Tech companies have existed, free of any kind of oversight for a long, long time. I do wish they weren't as opaque as they currently are, because unfortunately, you can't see how the decisions are made. But I also understand why. Twitter has over 350 million users. TikTok has over 500 million users. Facebook has over 3 billion users.
Yep.
These are bigger than conglomerates of countries. So imagine like a committee room just being open for everyone to see. As you can imagine, that's gonna have abuse. So that's that. But
did you see what the president of Uganda said? There was a tweet by the president of Uganda, and he said that if Twitter stopped Facebook start to meddle in our election, then we'll ban it from the country. It was crazy. It was mad.
Because Twitter's super scared of losing access to Uganda, isn't it? Right?
I'm just saying. It's more of a principle. That's all it is.
Twitter doesn't have access in China. Is that right? Is it in China?
No.
North Korea, and I thought it was some parts of China don't have.
Yeah, they don't. They don't.
They banned it. Oh, right. It's my understanding they only banned the software, but not the website itself. My bad.
Yeah, but folks use all sorts of kind of alternatives for in there. But no doubt this story will continue, and folks can go on tcsnetwork.co.uk to see our coverage. We've got articles.
I've written about it as well.
Exactly. So people can read your article, tcsnetwork.co.uk, right?
Yep.
Superb.
There you go.
Well, thank you, Aaron.
No worries.
We're gonna move straight on to a really interesting segment. This should lower the tones a bit. We get so passionate when it comes to Donald Trump. He does this, doesn't he? He just wakes up that inner in you.
I love this next part because I always win whenever we've done it in the past.
In your alternate universe, you win. I don't see.
No. I mean, we have proof on Facebook. Actually, if you go back on the videos, you will see that I won. So I will take that. Thank you very much.
You show me your receipts, and we'll talk about you winning.
Well, I think maybe we'll. Yeah, I will send you those. But maybe we'll bring a guest on instead for this one, and we'll save you having to lose on our very first show back, Mike. Is our guest around? Mokuka, are you there? Hello?
Yes, I am here.
Hey!
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So this part of do you want to introduce it, Mike?
Yeah, so shall I introduce it?
You go introduce it.
Okay, cool. So, folks, this next segment is called Change My Mind. It's one of my favorite segments. Before we do that, we're going to hear a bit from Mukuka and hear a bit about her. But Change My Mind is very simple. Essentially, there will be a statement that I will read out or Afshan will read out. And either Mukuka or Afshan or myself will have 1 minute to change the mind of the person reading the statement, right? That's how it works. It's quite simple. So your job is to try and change our minds about the statements we've just read, right? So you've got to be able to think for different segments, different arguments. So, but before we do that, just tell the viewers a bit about you. What do you do? Where are you right now? I see some wonderful lights. They look really good. Tell us a bit about you.
Well, yeah, I'm currently in my room at the moment, in student accommodation. I'm in Manchester. I currently go to MMU, Manchester Metropolitan University. I study biomedical science, and I am 20 years old.
Amazing. And have you been close to COVID?
Not yet.
What? It's because I know universities have a lot of COVID.
Yeah, I haven't gone in any lately, so no, I haven't been at the moment actually.
Sorry, that wasn't part of the plan, right? So, are we ready to go?
Yeah. So, do you understand the rules? So we'll give you a statement, and you have to change our mind. You have to convince us otherwise. So, if I say the statement is milk should always go first in tea, you have to change my mind that milk shouldn't always go first when you're making a cup of tea. Yeah. So the statement is, what should I go with? Okay. New Year's resolutions are the worst thing to do at the beginning of the year and are a complete waste of time. Change my mind.
Okay, New Year's resolutions.
Well,
I haven't.
I'm gonna find this. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
So you're going to have exactly 1 minute to do that, and then people listening, you can vote in, and you can let us know if Mukuka did change your mind or did she not. Ready? Your time starts now.
Okay, so I believe New Year's resolutions are a good thing to have at the start of the year. Well, New Year's obviously at the start of the year, January, and I feel like everybody has a sense of like excitement, and well, not really excitement, but I say motivation when it comes to January. So I was like, when is the best time to ever have New Year's resolutions? So I think by making them, I feel like some people are a bit too hard on themselves sometimes, maybe, but I feel like by setting down tasks, setting down goals is a perfect way to start the year. I feel like it's a good way to see what you're going to achieve by the end of the year as well. I feel like everybody loves to like write goals and know that they're going to be able to do that. I don't think it's the worst thing to do at the beginning of the year. I feel like it's a good way to start it off. And what else can I say?
10 seconds left.
In terms of for me, I believe that they're really good. I have done some goals myself, and I'm very excited to be able to carry them out. And I feel like it gives you something to do month by month as well.
Great, that's your minute. Did she change your mind, Mike? No. Torrin says right. Okay, so she's changed somebody's by the look of it.
Like I actually agree with you, but I think I just so it could work, I put in my mind that I don't believe it, and then you didn't change my mind. Sorry.
I don't think they. I think they should be done whenever you want to do them.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the effort.
Thank you.
We just ruined our evening. We were just right. Okay, cool. So do you want to have a go next, Afshan?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Let me have a go then.
I'm gonna give you statement 3. Right. I'm gonna give you statement 3.
Okay.
Read it out, and then you've got a minute to change my mind. Here we go. 2022. We will still be in lockdown with no improvements. In 2022, we will still be in lockdown with no improvements. Change my mind.
So 2022 is almost like a year away right now. And actually, we've got a vaccine coming out this year. We have already seen some progress across the world outside of the UK. Because we seem to be quite problematic with actually following the rules and actually having rules to follow. But the rest of the world seems to be moving on. Wuhan has already opened up their nightclubs, and I imagine that it will take about another 6 to 9 months before we can start doing the same over here. 2022 is a big year for the UK. We've got a big festival of UK season coming up. It is also quite personal to my heart. India and Pakistan Independence Day, 75th anniversary from the UK. So I feel like it's going to be a great year to go out into the world and to travel. And I'm losing this battle already because I have no idea what else to say. It's so unfair.
Time's up. Right, Makuka, did Afshan change your mind?
You gave me hope. You did. You gave me a lot of hope. Change my mind? Not again. Yeah, I did put myself in the mindset of no, it's not gonna. By 2022, we have like no improvement. Just try to see if I could be on your side. But yeah, no, I didn't think you changed my mind. But you did give me quite a bit of hope, though.
This is because I said that yours wasn't very good, was it? Is that why?
No, it's not revenge. It's not revenge.
It's just revenge. Right. Well, that was a super fun segment. It is 8, so unfortunately, I think that's all we have time for. So Makuka, thanks so much for joining us. It was really fun to have you. Hopefully, we can have you come on as a guest next time, and maybe kind of give us some thoughts on what you think about some of the issues.
That'd be great. Thank you for having me.
Enjoy your lights and enjoy revising. That's what students are doing right now. No?
Yes, definitely.
Take care. Right, that was super fun. That was a really, really, really fun one. So, how did that go for you, Afshan? Did you?
I didn't do very well in this one, but that's because it's the first one. We're in a lockdown, you know, restrictions. I'm working from home. I wasn't there fully, but if you watch all of the previous ones on Facebook, you'll see that I won. I won a lot of them, and I did really well. Thank you.
Right, sure. Well, folks, if you're listening to this on rebroadcast, perhaps, do feel free to still share your thoughts. Even if you're listening right now, share your thoughts. Common Sense Live is a hashtag. We are back. We decided to kind of go with a soft launch this time around.
Yeah.
Forwards, we'll be a lot more vocal about this show. We want this to be the show you come to every week because you want to hear interesting perspectives, you want to hear debate, you want to hear discussion, you want to hear different sides of the opinion. Different sides of an issue. So subscribe if you haven't done so. Follow on Twitter if you're watching on Twitter. And if you're on Facebook, like the page as well, and just become a part of this family. If you're interested in actually becoming part of Common Sense, it's free, and you just go to join.tcsnetwork.co.uk. You can join our community, get weekly updates, what we're working on. This is a big year for us, and we're waiting to be a part of it. Afshan, any final words?
This has been really fun. Longest break ever between two shows, like you said, but it's been really great getting back, even though we're doing this from our homes rather than in the studio. I really hope to see some of the faces that we've seen today and hear some of the comments next time that we're on. So until then.
Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.